The summer air felt thick that evening as Zora Washington, a 12-year-old black girl, stood quietly in the back of the crowd at Maxwell Caldwell's grand estate. The kind of estate that could make you feel small just standing in front of it, with its marble pillars, long, winding driveway, and glistening Rolls-Royces parked in neat rows like they were being displayed at a museum. Zora didn't belong here. She wasn't supposed to be part of this world, not with her mother's catering company struggling to stay afloat, not with the kind of people who lived here, who seemed to wear wealth like armor. But somehow, Zora was here, clutching her most prized possession, her father's old harmonica, as she stood behind the kitchen doors, watching the spectacle unfold in front of her. With his expensive Italian suit and effortless charm, he greeted his guests like they were royalty. He had earned the title of fifth richest man in America with his tech empire, and tonight, he was hosting his annual charity gala. The air was filled with the sound of clinking glasses, soft classical music playing in the background, and laughter that didn't quite touch the eyes of the guests. It was a night for the elite, the kind of event where no one even noticed the staff moving behind the scenes. Zora watched as the white guests, all impeccably dressed, sipped their drinks and mingled, while the staff people who looked like her and her mother worked in the shadows, invisible to the wealthy patrons. Zora didn't understand why it had to be this way. She had been in this world before, the world where her mother worked, doing everything she could to keep their small business afloat. And every time, Zora noticed the same thing. The unspoken rules that kept people like her in the background. The kind of people who didn't get invited to sit at the fancy tables. Maxwell's son, Trevor Caldwell, walked by, his arrogant swagger cutting through the crowd. He was tall, like his father, but he had none of the grace. His latest stint in rehab was only a month ago, and his privy leg was more obnoxious than ever. He leaned in to talk to the Blackwoods, a family who owned a prominent police department, their wealth and connections providing the same privy leg Trevor had known his whole life. Zora could hear their voices, muffled through the kitchen door. The women's voices carried, complaining about the new community center being built in Riverview, a project that would allow more black families into the neighborhood. Zora's stomach turned as she heard one of the women say, "There goes the neighborhood. Property values will plummet once those people start coming around." She retreated back to the kitchen, her mother's voice calling her back, but the words lingered, like poison. And then it happened. The entertainment portion of the evening began. Maxwell's voice rang out, amplified by a microphone, announcing the main event, his Rottweiler, Emperor. Maxwell loved to flaunt his wealth, and his prized dog was the crown jewel. He announced a wager, $1 million challenge to anyone who could calm Emperor when the dog was in his protection mode. The bet seemed too absurd to be real, but there it was. $1 million, up for grabs. All anyone had to do was tame the dog. Zora had seen the way Emperor paced in the cage, his massive form clearly agitated. She had seen dogs like him before, angry, unsettled, misunderstood. The tension in the air was palpable as the first few volunteers failed, each one making the dog more frantic, more aggressive. And then Zora watched. She watched as grown men and women tried and failed, using techniques that only seemed to provoke the dog further. Something shifted in her. She didn't know what, but she knew that no one was trying to understand what the dog needed. No one was listening to him. They were just trying to make him do what they wanted, without ever considering that maybe the dog didn't want to play their game. Without thinking, Zora stepped forward. She had to. Something inside her knew what the dog needed. She could feel it. "Zora, no." Her mother's voice echoed, panic rising in it as she realized what her daughter was about to do. But Zora didn't stop. The crowd was starting to turn their eyes toward her, whispers running through the air like electricity. Maxwell Caldwell's eyes narrowed when he saw the little girl walking toward the cage. A slow, mocking smile spread across his face. He didn't care if she failed. He didn't even care if it was dangerous. It was all just part of the entertainment, after all. Let her try, he called out, amused by the audacity of this girl. $1,000,000 if she can calm Emperor. Zora stood there, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled the harmonica from her pocket. The room fell silent, and in that moment, nothing seemed to matter. She wasn't here to entertain anyone. She wasn't here to prove anything. She was just here to be herself, to do what her father had taught her to speak when words failed. The first note was soft, barely audible, but it was enough. The dog paused. He turned his head. Zora didn't play for the crowd. She played for the dog. Her fingers moved over the harmonica with the same care her father had shown her, each note flowing into the next. It wasn't a song of cheer. It wasn't a song of hope. It was a song of understanding, a song that reached out to the dog in ways the others couldn't. And as she played, something changed. The tension in Emperor's body melted away. His growl faded. His tail started to sway slowly, almost tentatively. The massive dog, who had been bred for aggression, sat down, his eyes focused entirely on Zora, as though recognizing something in her that he hadn't seen before. Maxwell's jaw dropped, his $1,000,000 bet slipping through his fingers, and the crowd was stunned. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. The room was silent, except for the sound of Zora's harmonica, the notes drifting into the space where power and privy leg once reigned, dismantling everything they stood for. The challenge, the bet, the cruelty, it all disappeared in the face of a young girl's connection with a misunderstood animal. Maxwell Caldwell was furious. He tried to accuse Zora of cheating, of doing something underhanded. But the dog was calm, the crowd was in disbelief, and nothing could take away what Zora had done. She had silenced the room, not with force, not with anger, but with compassion and music. And yet, Maxwell wasn't ready to let it go. He refused to accept that a little girl from a catering company could have outsmarted him, made him look foolish in front of his guests. So, he did what wealthy men like him do best. He tried to suppress the truth. But the truth was already out. The videos were already online, and his empire, built on manipulation and wealth, was cracking at the seams. What happened next was nothing short of a spectacle. Zora and her mother found themselves at the center of a storm. The guests, once enthralled by Maxwell's wealth, were now questioning everything they had seen. The fight for power, for control, was now in the hands of a little girl who had nothing but a harmonica and the truth. But the most surprising part of the night was the ending. Maxwell Caldwell tried everything. He offered money, tried to discredit Zora, but the truth remained. Zora wasn't part of his world. She was never meant to be. And yet, she had changed everything. The last shot was of Zora, holding her harmonica, standing in front of the crowd, her mother by her side, and the dog Emperor at her feet. They had done something that couldn't be undone. They had shown that real power isn't about wealth or status. It's about connection, the kind of connection that no amount of money could ever buy. So what do you think? Was Zora right to stand up to Maxwell? Was it the right thing to do? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you believe that sometimes the smallest voices have the loudest impact.